For 2025, one of my goals is to make more use of what I have, buy less and learn more. So in that spirit, I want to learn more about some of the synths I already own. And I own quite a few. But I'm going to start with something that's completely free that I haven't even tried yet. It comes inside of Ableton Live. It's called the Drift Synth, or Drift. And I've heard great things about it, but I've never actually opened it. I don't know why. It actually does a lot of the good stuff that I like with my analog hardware that I've got lying around, but I've never got around to it. So I'm going to learn how to use it today. So I've set myself a challenge. Can I make a full deep house track using only the Drift synth? And I mean drums, I mean percussion, I mean bass lines, I mean leads. Can I use this one synth to create all the sounds I need for a full track, or at least a full loop? So to prepare for this challenge, I have watched a YouTube tutorial, in fact, a couple of them on Drift. There's some great tutorials out there. This is not a full in-depth tutorial, and I will link the ones that I watched down below, but they teach you the basics. But after that, I'm not going to use any presets. I'm going to load a standard version of Drift onto each track, and I'm going to create every sound from scratch. Sounds fun, right? Or maybe terrifying. I have no idea how this is going to turn out. Is it going to be awful, or is it going to be something that I could actually turn into a full track and even maybe release? I have, however, got a neat trick to help me along the way. Keep watching, because I think I've found an easy way for you or anyone to learn any synth. And if you stick around to the end of the video, you'll hear the full track. You know, does it sound awful? Does it sound amateur? Or does it sound good enough to be my next release? I'll let you decide. Let me know in the comments. So here's the deal. Deep house is all about vibe, smooth leads, warm bass lines, tight drums, and that perfect blend of chill and groove. So I have pulled together some MIDI patterns so you don't have to watch me try and create the chords and the melody. That's for another day. This video is about sound design. I have 7 tracks to create. So first, let me tell you about this trick that I've just come across. Okay, so I've got my Ableton project up here, and on the left of the screen. On the right, you'll see I have ChatGPT open, and I don't know how new this function is, but in ChatGPT, you now have this section here called Projects, and I have set one up here called Ableton Live. And all I've done is uploaded the Ableton Live PDF manual into ChatGPT. It's 898 pages, this document. But what you can do once you've loaded it up is I've given it some instructions. Just says this project in ChatGPT is all about learning a complicated piece of software. You, ChatGPT, have access to the full manual. I will ask you questions, and I want you to distill the information into a step-by-step practical solution that I can follow along with. And what this does is that it enables you to take this huge manual and distill it down into actionable steps. And I'm going to use it today to help me create these sounds. So let's get going. So the first track, the first sound I want is a kick drum. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT how to make a kick drum sound using only Drift. Taking its time. ChatGPT has come up with 9 steps for me to go through. So I'm going to go through them now. First step is to drag a standard version of Drift onto the track, which is what I've done, and it sounds like this. Okay, awful, but that is what it sounds like, not much like a kick. So step 2 is set up oscillator 1. So firstly, I'm going to turn down the volume of oscillator 2 so we only have oscillator 1. It says choose a sine wave, just the octave to -2 or 3. Let's see what happens there. Well, we can't go to -3, so we'll go -2. Okay, that's sounding a little bit better already. Go to envelope 1, which is here, envelope 1. Set the attack to a very low amount. Can we have it to 0? Yeah, we'll set it to 0. Lower the decay and release to create a short and sharp, punchy sound. Okay. Okay, so we've got a bit of a click there, so I'll just adjust the attack back to 1 millisecond. Oh, great. To 1. No, 1, okay. Sustain to 0, decay and release. So we have a short, punchy sound. Use envelope 2 to modulate the pitch. So the thing about a kick drum is you need that initial pitch slide to create the sound. So at the bottom here is envelope 2. Use it to modulate oscillator 1, envelope 2. So here we've got the pitch modulation. So we'll turn this up. I have no idea how much we've got, 60% there. Fast decay. Right, we want no sustain, we want probably no release, and we want... There you go, so that's the pitch decay. So that sounds pretty good. If we turn this off, yeah. Gets a bit more of a laser sound if we go too high, so 60% sounds about right. Use the filter section, right? Enable a low pass filter, right? That's a good idea. Just the cutoff to remove unnecessary high frequencies. Add a slight resonance, which is here. We'll add a bit of resonance. I think we can still come down with it. Okay, that's beginning to sound a bit better. Probably. Yeah, that's pretty good. Enable, add a slight resonance. Yes, we've done that. Use the drift parameter. We're in poly mode. We don't really need it to be in poly mode here. We can probably be in mono here. Drift, use it sparingly to introduce a subtle detune effect. Well, it's come up here at 7% already. That probably is already there. What if we adjust this mono? I think it's more like a drive, this... We'll have a bit of that. That sounds pretty good. Add some noise. We could try and add some noise here, which is the sort of third oscillator. Yeah, we could do that. We're pretty much there, I think. We could try adding in another oscillator. This is 3. We could try adding in the saturated saw. Maybe, I'm not sure it adds too much. We could try driving oscillator 1 as well, so it's at -6, but if you increase the volume, it drives into the filter. We were at -6, weren't we? Okay, and then I've got a utility here just to make sure that's in mono. I've added a drum bus and an EQ here just to give it a bit more character. I think we need the EQ actually. Adds a little bit of something. Right, I think we've got a kick there. Right, I'm going to save my project, always a good idea. The next sound is a snare. So again, on the snare, I have this is a simple 2 and 4 pattern in the MIDI, and I've just got the standard, exactly the same drift, so it's going to sound awful. Great. We're going to go back to ChatGPT and we're going to ask it how to make a snare. So, okay, so again, we have 9 steps. Step 1 is to add the drift onto a MIDI track, which I have done. Oscillator 1, set it to a square wave. Okay, we can do that. Or a slightly detuned saw wave. Well, let's see, lower the octave. A slightly detuned saw wave. We might put a detuned saturator on there, but let's well, just have oscillator 1. Okay, that is unpleasant. enable the noise generator to get the sizzle characteristics of a snare. Adjust it to mix well. Yeah, okay, we've got a bit of a noise there. Go to envelope 1 to control the amplitude. Set attack to 0 for a sharp transient. Yep. Quick decay, 200 to 400 milliseconds. It even gives me this sort of time. Sustain to 0 and release to a low value. Okay, well. Now we've got poly. I think this also should be potentially mono. We need a high pass filter. No, that's resonance. Hold on. We need a high pass filter. Oh, hold on. I've missed a step. Use envelope 2 to modulate the pitch of oscillator 1. Okay, envelope 2. Here we go. Fast pitch drop by setting a high initial value. And we just want, again, a bit like the kick drum. Don't want it to go to sound like a laser. Okay, that is beginning to sound a bit more like a snare. Set a low pass filter for the tonal element if needed to tame the harshness. Okay, no, that kind of works. I like that. Just resonance, yeah, done that. Add a subtle LFO modulation to the noise. All filter cutoff to introduce slight variations. That sounds like a good idea. So this LFO, this is the rate, so we'll have it relatively slow. We'll have it re-triggering, and we're going to set it to now the noise. I'm not sure. Oh, hold on. We can probably set it to LFO to noise gain. Here we go. Okay, so it's in the modulation section. You use the LFO. You set it to modulate the noise gain, so the volume, and we can adjust so I've changed the amount and the rate, taken off re-trigger. Okay, use the drift parameter sparingly. Yep, agreed. I think that sounds pretty good. Do I have any? Yeah, okay, so it's already got a little bit of reverb on here, which is why you can hear a bit. Okay, with the kick. Bit more volume maybe? Well, I'm not going to do too much mixing. I'm not going to do too much mixing in this video. This is more about the sound design, right? So now I've got another snare with a different MIDI pattern. So I do have the standard drift here, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to copy what we've already done and just adjust some of these parameters. So this is the same snare as on the first one with a different pattern. So if I just play the snare itself, it gets much quieter. We're going to change it. So why don't I add in? We don't have oscillator 2 in the first snare, so we'll add it in here. Because this is a synth, if we change the pitch that we're playing, it will actually change the sound. It doesn't matter that it's in scale, but if I just take it and just and with the other one. Maybe not the best. I suspect snare is probably quite a hard one to do using a synth, but it sounds okay. Now we're going to go on to a hat. So again, if I play it, this just has the standard drifts. It'll sound, yeah, standard offbeat pattern, nothing particularly special about the MIDI on this one. Right, and we're going to go back to ChatGPT and say how to create a closed hi-hat using drift. Okay, so add a drift to a MIDI track. Done. Set oscillator 1 to noise mode if available. I'm kind of hoping it should know whether it's available. It is not available. Or introduce noise using the noise generator. I think we just use the noise here. Yeah. Use envelope 1 for the amplitude. So attack to 0. Decay to 50 to 100 mils. So let's go for 68.4. Sounds good. Sustain to 0. Release to a low amount. I mean, that sounds like a hi-hat sound already. Now I've got an EQ. I just want to. Nice. Release to a short amount. That's sounding pretty much like a hi-hat already. We need a high pass filter. Just the cutoff frequency to around 4 to 8. 4 to 8. That sounds okay. More volume, I think. Add subtle LFO to the filter cutoff. So if we have filter cutoff here, frequency modulation, this is 100%, and we don't want it to re-trigger. So that is probably, yeah, that's affecting the low pass. We really want it to affect the high pass. So what we're going to do is go into modulation here, select LFO, high pass frequency. Here we go. We just set it to 100%. It's doing too much. So you can hear it's changing the sound subtly. That's what we want. Even that might be too much. We'll come back to that. If available, enable a transient shaper. So this ChatGPT is not perfect because there isn't a transient shaper on here. And it should know that. Polish with effects. So EQ, boost 8 to 10. We've done that. Reverb. Does this have some reverb on it? Yes, this has a bit of reverb on it already. We could try a few different settings. We could try stereo here. We could try unison. Sounds pretty good, actually. We could try adding in a different oscillator. Okay, I like that. And we have hi-hat too, and I'm going to do the same thing. Rather than design that one from scratch, I'm going to take what we've got and change it for the second hi-hat pattern. So for this one, I'm going to change the high pass frequency. So if we just go straight onto this on its own. There we go. Might have added a bit more of the oscillator one. I've got an envelope follower here. I'm going to map the decay. It'll make it so this is now listening to the volume of the hi-hat and adjusting the decay subtly. All right, with the other hat. With snares. Okay. Right, bass. To make back into ChatGPT, let's make a deep house bass. Deep house bass sound using only drift synth. Okay, step one is going to be the same. Load drift, and we have okay. We have the same. So step two, set oscillator one to a sawtooth or a square tooth. Let's go saw, I think, on this one. Enable oscillator two, tuning it slightly. Tuning it slightly. Detuning it slightly is what it actually means. Use a sine wave for added sub bass, okay? Now I'm actually going to split up my lead and sub bass, so actually this one I don't really need the sub bass in oscillator 2. I'm going to stick it in just in case we can get a bit of thickness from it. Right, apply a low pass filter. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Low pass filter. We don't need a high pass filter. If you type 2 here, gives it a steeper. Bit of a, yeah, okay. Apply low pass filter, set the cutoff frequency to 100 to 300, yeah. Use resonance sparingly to enhance the body. I think maybe we need a few more harmonics in this. Yeah, okay, nice. Envelope 1 for amplitude, set attack to 0. Decay between 200 and 500. Sustain to 0. Slightly above 0. Slightly above 0. Yeah, it's sounding pretty good already. Envelope 2 to modulate the filter cutoff. Set a quick decay and a low sustain. Typical in deep house bassline, so it's actually referenced the deep house comment that I put in. Quick decay, low sustain. Okay, well, keep it low. But pretty similar. Right, use the LFO to modulate the filter cutoff or pitch sparingly. Right, let's get the LFO. Set the LFO to sync to our track. So if you put it in note mode here, we can sync it to eighths or quarters. Okay, we can do that, and we're going to set it to modulate our. What did it suggest? Filter cutoff or pitch. Well, we've already got the filter cutoff using envelope 2, which I quite like. So why don't we do the pitch slightly? I don't think we need this, but see how we get like vibrato here. What we can do though is change this, and if we put it into one of the linear envelopes, we get basically another envelope, and we can get a bit more of an attack on this bass. More like a kick drum. Now we don't want too much, but if I just do it subtly, it gives it a bit more of a transient. Okay. I quite like that. What else could we play with? Unison. That actually makes it sound a bit smoother, I think. I've got a saturator here, it might just... Before. Subtle, but it adds a little bit of something. Right, and then I'm going to do the same again. I am going to copy this, paste it onto the, I'll call it bass support. I'm actually going to call this bass sub. So on this one, I'll take off the lead. Again, mainly using, I guess, the EQ. I'm going to turn up what we had on oscillator 2 and turn down oscillator 1, but leave the rest the same. Okay, so that is quite subtle, and I'm not going to do too much on that because unless you're listening on headphones, you're not really going to hear too much of the sub. But if we do the kick and the bass together, and I've just got a bit of drum bass on the bass group and a bit of side chain to the kick. Okay, I think that sounds pretty good. Let's move on. We have more things to do. Right, we now have a main synth. Right, I will take off the bass line and the kick for now. And so this is a kind of syncopated partner to the bass. It's not really a traditional lead. It adds a bit more kind of groove. Right, let's see what ChatGPT makes of this. How to make a deep house smooth lead synth sound using only drift synth. Okay, so stage 1 is adding a drift synth to the MIDI, which I have done. Oscillator 1 set to saw for its rich harmonic content. I agree. Enable oscillator 2, set it to a square wave. I can do that. Or a slightly detuned saw. Or maybe even this has the wonderful saturated saw, which I could detune. How does that? Sounds pretty good already, to be honest. I haven't done much to get that. Nice. Use envelope 1 for amplitude. Yeah, we're getting the hang of this. Set attack to a moderate value, 20 to 50 milliseconds. Okay. A smooth onset. Yeah, that's true. I don't want it to be too plucky. Increase decay and sustain to maintain a consistent volume. Well, these are quite short notes. Yeah, quite like that. Set release to moderate value, 200 to 500 milliseconds. Yeah, I've done that. Right, where are we now? Adjust to control it. Use envelope 2 to modulate the filter cutoff. Yeah, well, it actually comes up as standard like this, so that is correct, but do I need to do much to it? I want to try and cut out some of the lows because this is supposed to be a lead. Now, there's a chance this is a bit too. There's a chance this is a bit too deep to go with the bass. So I'll have to come back to the octave settings shortly. Add some reverb, add some drift. Yeah, that is a good idea for the lead, actually. I mean, poly. I might try unison on this. I quite like that actually already. Do we need any noise in this? Let's try. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Expression control, a bit of reverb. Yeah, we could do a bit of reverb, which we've got. A bit of delay. We don't have any delay. I'll maybe sort that out later. I don't think that's for now. EQ, haven't got an EQ. Expression, map the modulation wheel or to the filter cutoff, fine tuning experiment. Right, okay, that is all good stuff. How does it sound with the bass and the kick? Just adjusting the LFO to make the LFO modulate the amount that the envelope is adjusting the frequency, just to give it a bit more dynamism. Okay, I like that. Let's move on. We've got one more synth, and this is going to be more like a kind of string sound. I think this is more atmosphere. Right, how to make a string type sound using drift synth only. So I'm going to, while it's whirring away, I'm going to take a guess that we want this to be quite smooth. So we want some sine waves. We also want it to be quite high. So I think the octaves are going to need to be up. And this, if I just take everything out, this is just 3 repeated notes, but I want it to be kind of long and sustained and almost like bleed into each other. Right, this says set the oscillator 1 to a saw. Well, I'm gonna. Okay, well, no, let's pay attention to chat GPT. Oscillator 2, detune it slightly, but a chorus-like effect and blend. Okay, that sounds pretty good already, to be honest. Apply a low-pass filter to soften. Okay. Envelope 2 to modulate the cutoff. Yeah, well, as usually it comes up automatically. Moderate attack. Okay, so we want it to be, in fact, probably for both of them. Use a long decay and a high sustain to maintain. Well, I really want these to bleed into each other, so I think I need a long release, to be honest. I'm going to make the LFO adjust the... Okay, that sounds pretty good. I think we can probably improve this with some effects, but that is for a later time. Maybe the volume, it seems quite loud. But with the main synth. Okay, so I have now done 2 snares. I have done the 2 bass lines. I have done the 2 synths. So I have done the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tracks. I think I pretty much said 7 in the start, but so every single track has been done using the drift synth, and it's pretty simple. But the beauty of this kind of challenge is that you just get to use it again and again. So quickly you get to dial in, and you manage to create, you know, I've gone from a bass to a lead to some strings to a kick drum to snares. Now, they're not perfect, and I think if I was to take this forward, I might replace some of these with some samples, but it just shows how quickly you can get your head around a synth. And, you know, what's it sound like right now? Okay, I think it sounds pretty good, to be honest. And I think using ChatGPT has really helped us get to grips with the synth much, much quicker than we would otherwise do. So I think that shows you how quickly you can get to grips with a synth. I think we've got a pretty good loop going on here, but I couldn't stop there. So I think this video is already long enough, but what I did is I then went ahead and I've created a perk section. So if we go back into and we move across, I have 5 different perk settings, perks here, different sort of metallic sounds, all of them, again, created using drift. And I added in a couple of loops. So these are the first things in the track that don't have anything to do with drift. I just thought it needed a little bit fuller sound on the drums. I then added a pluck, which again is using drift. We've got drift here, and a pad, which is like a chord sound here, which, okay, so this is a preset. It is using drift, but I just put in an Ableton preset. So that is the first preset. And then I got some vocals from Splice and messed around with them. And yeah, look, I think it sounds pretty good. I haven't done much in the way of effects. I haven't done much in the way of mixing and compression and anything like that. So it's not polished, but this is a 16-bar loop that I think deserves to be taken on and maybe even created into a full track. Let me know what you think. This is where I've ended up. Thanks very much for watching, and I will see you next time. So I started off by saying, can you make a deep house track using just Ableton's drift synth? I think the answer is absolutely, you can. The tools you have already at your disposal are incredibly versatile if you take the time to really experiment and learn them and push their limits. Plus, you know, it's often said sometimes working with restrictions sometimes forces you to be more creative, and that's where the magic happens. I really think in the last hour, I have really got to grips with the drift synth, and I would have no problem just sticking it on a track and getting a sound that I really like very, very quickly. That's all for this video. I've really enjoyed this challenge. I would recommend you giving it a go as well. And look, let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think this loop, this 16-bar loop, is good enough to be turned into a full track and maybe my next release? I'd love to know what you think. And if you want to watch another video, then YouTube is going to recommend this one to you, which is one of my other videos. And YouTube's pretty smart. It knows what you like. So watch that one next, and I'll see you next time. Thanks very much.